I appreciate you all joining us. I'm Lauren Reddington, Programs Director for the American Solar Energy Society. Thank you so much for joining us for our monthly webinar series. To kick off, I would like to inform you of who ASES is and update you all on some of our current events and programs. So the American Solar Energy Society is a 501c3 nonprofit that was established in 1954 and advocates for sustainable living and 100% renewable energy by sharing information, events, and resources to cultivate community and power progress. You can join our community at any time at ases.org/join. Webinar registrants receive 10% off all ASES memberships, excluding life memberships, by using promo code webinar. There is still time to take advantage of the early bird rates available for registration to our 52nd Annual National Solar Conference, Solar 2023, Transforming the Energy Landscape for All. The conference will be a net zero emissions event and held in Boulder, Colorado at the University of Colorado Boulder and online in a hybrid format from August 8th to 11th. Head to ases.org/conference to register, view the conference schedule, and check out the visitor's guide. The 28th Annual National Solar Tour is set for October 6th to 8th and will feature a collection of local tours and tour sites with solar and sustainable technologies across the US. Signups are open to host a tour site or local tour, so head to nationalsolartour.org to sign up. ASES also invites you to participate in our online community. This is a space for our community to collaborate, share content and information, and network with each other. The online community is also home to our Mentor Match program, which facilitates mentor and mentee relationships in the interest of enhancing personal and professional development. I encourage you all to head to community.ases.org following this webinar to continue the discussion. Thank you for listening to these ASES updates. I want to note this webinar will be available in a recorded format soon. I will follow up with everyone once it is available. I will ask that you submit your comments to the chat section and questions to the Q&A section. All attendees will be able to see your questions and upvote the questions you would most like to see answered. We will do our best to review and answer everything at the end of the presentation. Now I would like to introduce today's presenter, Orlo Stitt, President, Stitt Energy Systems. After touring several industrial plants in college at Iowa State University, Orlo switched majors from chemistry engineering to botany, began his environmental journey. He earned his MBA at the University of Iowa after serving in the Marine Corps, and then began researching cold climate passive solar greenhouses. He applied what he learned to building his own energy plant home. Orlo founded Stitt Energy Systems, now the Stitt Group, in 1978 to help others save energy and make the world a better place to live. He authored Holistically Green Homes, 18 Principles for Designing, Building, and Retrofitting Your Energy Efficient Home. Orlo developed South Sun Estates on Beaver Lake near Rogers, Arkansas, the first energy plan passive solar subdivision in Northwest Arkansas. And he is a certified green professional, former HERS rater, and is an ASES honorary fellow. Orlo lives in a net zero plus energy efficient home in South Sun Estates with his wife, Mary. Mary and Orlo both drive plug-in solar powered electric automobiles. Now I'll turn it over to you, Orlo.
Okay, we're going to share the screen here and we get started. Thank you, Lauren, and we appreciate you and your work to get this going. We also thank the people who are participating. So with that, we'll move forward. Some of the things that we'll be covering, Lauren has already said, and so here we go. So here's a title page. And in addition to Lauren, I thank Paulette Middleton and Carly and Ella Nielsen, who I've been coordinating with on different things. So it's a team, and we appreciate that team. Climate change, reality, climate challenges and solutions, and I hope we can cover this. And I'll elaborate some on what Lauren said in the introduction as we move forward. So let's go to the first slide. As a member of ASES, American Solar Energy Society, for 25 years, I would also like to say something that a little cliche that I've said, and I think there's truth in it, that solar energy is the vaccine, as in COVID, to combat climate change. But in addition to that, let's recognize that and give thanks to the fact that all the ASES staff, both present and past, since 1954, when ASES was created, for their meaningful work and dedication to further develop solar energy, both technically and economically. Solar energy is here and moving forward to a great part for the work of the science and administration of ASES. So thank you. You elaborated a little bit, but I'll be more specific with regard to the course at Iowa State. I had a professor named Dr. John Dodd, who taught this environmental biology course, which I took as an elective. And he was stimulating and motivating, technically competent, a PhD in chemistry and biology. And he brought the reality of climate change, even in 1963, to a real meaningful part in my mind and my motivation for the future. I changed my major from chemical engineering, big move, particularly after all those courses in math and chemistry and physics and whatever, which I think is also a part of what led me to where I am now. I graduated one term late, but I look back and I say, this is probably one of the best decisions I've ever made. Now, nearly 60 years later, I'm dating myself here a bit. I am still challenged, yet satisfied, and still motivated to make a difference by this early commitment, as a result of this early commitment. So the information that follows relates to the chemistry and the basic chemistry 101 or somewhere there in high school or college. It has to do with the combustion of carbon, and the simple equation of carbon plus oxygen leads to, with ignition, somehow it needs to be getting going in terms of a fire, leads to the generation of carbon dioxide. That's simple chemistry. The molecular weight, which some of you may remember, was 12 for carbon and 16 for oxygen. So 1 carbon and 2 oxygens leads to 44. And that may be the molecular weight, but it also may be pounds. 12 pounds plus 32 pounds equals 64 pounds, or even train loads, 12 train loads, and the oxygen to do that. Getting on through that and moving forward, and this is what really got me going in college and thinking about climate change even then, was that 1 train load was 120 cars and 116 tons per rail car. And remembering that when you combine oxygen with carbon, you have to multiply that by 3 to get the pounds of carbon dioxide. And that happens to be, for 1 train load for 1 day from 1 power plant, 167.04 billion pounds. This is only for one average coal generation plant for one day. In 1922, there were 225 coal generation plants. And around the world, I'm only listing China here, but there was 1,118 coal plants operating in China. So there's a lot more around the world. Chemically, carbon dioxide is very stable. It doesn't want to fall apart or break apart. It takes years, maybe even 100 years, for this to decompose or change its chemical structure. In addition to the carbon dioxide given off when coal burns or when anything burns, there are also other pollutants, both chemical and particulate, that in effect affect us here on Earth as people and animals and plants. So the next slide really relates in very similar way to gasoline burning. All those carbons in 228 and 80 and yields 704 in a total molecular weight. But the important thing there is 1 pound of gasoline leads to 3.08 pounds. The 08 seems minuscule, we might even round it, but in the atmosphere of the world, 08 pounds multiplied by power to the 20x, to the 10 to the 20 times is a whole lot. And you think about carbon dioxide and what it really is. Unlike household or industrial garbage, which we put in a dumpster or whatever and haul it away, carbon dioxide cannot be seen, it is not smelled or tasted, it cannot be shoveled, baled, or easily hauled away in any way. It occupies, depending on the temperature, a considerable greater space, and that's now out in the atmosphere, than a pound of water or coal or whatever. For a minute, just imagine that in the atmosphere, which you can't see, but you can kind of think, and I'm going to show you a picture in a minute, that all of this carbon dioxide, tons and tons and tons and tons of it, are somehow like a blanket surrounding our Earth. And that blanket is kind of different in that it lets light shine through, but it somehow holds in, insulates or captures some of the heat that's there on Earth. In Windows, we call it low emissivity, but light goes through, the heat is kept in, and that's what causes climate change. And that's, again, what motivated me for the next 60 years when I was in Iowa State. What scientists are reporting about climate change, and most of the scientists in universities and so forth are somehow working with the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on climate change. 195 countries involved, 2,000 scientists or more. We don't know how many for sure are somehow working on climate change. And interestingly, their findings are essentially unanimous, particularly in two aspects. One, it is happening. It's not just a cyclical happening of weather and you know, what comes normally, but it's also unanimous that it is causing by the burning of fossil fuels, mainly by the activities of mankind, people. So with that, let's move on to more specifics about the climate and IPCC scientists and what they're saying. Their first comment, which is in the 8,000-page report that was issued in 2022, final warning on climate crisis, act now or it's too late. Another one part of the report that just came out March 20th, 2023 says only swift and drastic action can avert irrevocable damage to the world. Below there are 2 articles which you can click on when you get the YouTube version recorded now. But the videos, one of them is 1 hour and 13 minutes. I'm not going to show that obviously in an hour, but one that's 56, I'll let you see and watch as follows. And one conclusion is from those sayings, yes, time is of essence.
Humanity is on thin ice, and that ice is melting fast.
What does the synthesis report tell us? Well, it tells us, and we know that climate change is here now. It tells us that climate change is a real threat to human and planetary well-being. It tells us, of course, that these human and planetary well-being are one and the same. It tells us that we are very, very close to 1.5 degrees limit, and that even this limit is not safe for people and for planet.
This report is a clarion call to massively fast-track climate efforts by every country and every sector and on every time frame. In short, our world needs climate action on all fronts, everything, everywhere, all at once.
So recent reports, not necessarily by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, things we read online or see on TV as it relates to climate change and tornadoes, hurricanes, drought, fires, flooding, mudslides, blizzards, even ocean and plants and animals in the ocean. These are not new. People say, well, it's always been that way. We've always had storms and snow and slides. But the conclusion is now it's more frequent and stronger. So let's look at a little bit, and I'm going to flash through these fairly quickly. The first thing is flooding. All across practically every state has had areas, and some prolifically, where flooding is a major problem. The houses are essentially ruined, or at least tremendous funds or money is having to be put into the repair. Only in many cases to have them flooded a year or 2 or 5 later. And the people have to live someplace and are certainly challenged by what all has happened with the flood. And then, unusually, we've had heavy snows in Southern California. Even a blizzard was recorded. And this has essentially never happened, but we are seeing floods and snow and melting things happening in unusual ways. This is a picture of a tornado right here in Arkansas where I am. It was recorded and photographed by the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette, which is our local newspaper. Stronger and more frequent, as I said before, all seasons around the country and throughout the world, more and more tornadoes, and in different seasons, not necessarily just in the late summer and fall. Hurricanes, blowing, water rising, tides, particularly if the storm is during high tide, sweeping boats and houses and onto the shore, tremendous damage. Economically, the climate change problems are just beyond understanding or beyond quantification. I took this picture recently. We were at the International Builders Conference in Las Vegas. We went to Lake Mead, And this picture shows that the water level in Lake Mead is now only 27% of capacity. Think of that. And that is affecting Las Vegas, Phoenix, all the areas, both farming and living, that are fed with water from the Colorado River. Quite a scene. Polar bears, not just for the polar bears, but the polar bears depend on ice and floating ice, glaciers, for survival and to continue their species. But it's an indication of the fact that the ice is melting, and that ice is going somewhere. And this is both in the Arctic and the Antarctic. And that is a potential problem threatening coastal cities. Miami right now is doing things to brace themselves against the storms and the higher waters. New York City and other places on the coast, wherever you might think of lower land along the oceans, not only in the US, but elsewhere, the Marshall Island people are deserting their islands and their country. Fires everywhere in the West and the Northwest, in Canada, Alberta, and British Columbia, and Colorado, and California, Oregon, up and down everywhere. And realizing too that these fires too are giving off CO2 and smoke and combustion and things for people with allergies or whatever, are experiencing a different level of air quality that they need for life and breathing. Mudslides. This was just last week in Italy, maybe 2 weeks ago, also in California and elsewhere. What a mess. Humanitarian and economic disasters. Down through the desert, you can see the highway. Whoops, I'm going too fast here. Down through the desert with a solar farm on the right. There's enough solar, not only in the desert, but every place else, on oceans, along the shorelines, floating solar, houses with solar on them. But there's enough power from the sun to supply the whole world with clean energy for essentially eternity, forever. Crops are failing, yes, around the world, particularly in South America and Central America, Asia, Africa, Europe. And what happens when people can't grow their crops and feed their families? They become refugees and they look for a better place. And no food, no water, they become refugees. Seeking a better life, somehow the need and the drive for survival forces them to walk 1,000 miles or so, wait at our southern borders or at our northern borders or at European borders, and all around, wherever they're refugees, not only by climate change, but also war, we find that refugees. At the American Solar Energy Society conference a number of years ago, I think it was during Barack Obama's term as president, Timothy Worth, the Assistant Undersecretary of State, gave a talk, and he said, we can talk about climate change and all that, and it's going to be a problem, but what problem is probably going to be the greatest that we've ever experienced is all the people that are uprooted from what they've been doing and how they've been living, fighting for survival, listening to people who tell them things, and they listen even though it may be a scam or something, and they're just trying to take advantage of these people who are seeking something positive. He referred it, Timothy Worth referred it, and I show it here, to Maslow's principle, the hierarchy of needs, and the people at the bottom are struggling. They're socially the bottom of the pyramid. They don't have any place to live, no security, no food, no water. And those are the people that are going to cause such great problems. Yet the people at the top, the people that can make self-actualization, think and act and work on their own, are the ones that have to solve these problems. And that's where it comes to us. How do we solve these problems? They're certainly real, but we've had other problems in the past. Probably many of you, some of you anyway, have heard of Greta Thunberg, an outspoken teenager that started when she was 14 or 15 to petition at the Swedish Parliament. She made a big issue. She got a lot of support. A lot of people listened. Things happened in Sweden because of her lobbying, her activism. And she, frankly, made an incredible difference in the way I think. I, as a person here in Rogers, Arkansas, because she had the nerve, the boldness to step out or speak out and say what she really thinks about what's happening. She woke up people. She woke me up to be more outspoken. And that's really what this seminar or this webinar is today, is speaking out to get people thinking and acting to make a difference. At first, I thought she was just a teenager with a lot of guts and drive and determination. When growing up, the book I showed previously was written by her mother. My wife and I have both read that book, and she tells of the problems, dietary problems, ballistic, eating problems, and also autism, just very challenged youth, and looking for some kinds of support and how her parents handled the situation. Now, after reading this book that's on the screen now, I realize that she's not just an autistic mouth speaker, she's a teenage genius. Yes, I really believe she's a teenage genius. She wrote this book in cooperation with lots of other people, talking about solutions to climate change and how we not only technically and scientifically need to respond to it, but how we need to take action locally, nationally, and otherwise. So I respect her for that, and I understand now why the Time magazine in 2019 honored her as the person of the of the year. Quite an honor. That's not only in Sweden now. She's been throughout different countries around the world, mostly operating on Zoom and making a difference. But she's also appeared in many parliaments and congresses and meetings and so forth. So she's making a difference, and I respect and commend her for that. Our biggest challenges, and this is somewhat my opinion, but it's based on a lot of this first comment in black. Climate change is the biggest challenge facing our global society, second only to preserving democracy. Gosh, how challenged we are with democracy versus autocracy. Specifically, number one, most people need to believe in science and the facts, to tell and accept the facts and the truth, regardless of the consequences. the phenomena of climate change is being denied or the facts distorted by a large segment of society. Education, which is really where I'm focusing, and then motivation. Large percentages of people do not know that climate change is a problem, that climate change is a matter of saving energy or how to save energy. They do not think they, as a person or a family, can afford the measures that will allow them to save energy or buy clean generation. Climate change is a problem for everyone else, but not them. It's not their own. They don't own it. There may not be a breakthrough as a lot of people anticipate. Oh, I'm not going to worry about it. Science will come with a breakthrough. Well, my opinion is solar is a breakthrough. And of course, with wind and conservation efficiencies, that is the solution and that is a breakthrough. So we just as well get on with it. Therefore, we need to teach, motivate, and assist about economical opportunities to save energy and generate clean energy. Motivate people to make commitments and take action so that they can and we can make a difference. Continuing on, number 3, we need economical sources of funds to finance clean energy projects and improvements. It costs money, it costs capital, up and down the income scale, not just the wealthy end, but down to the social levels. Energy-related cash flow is huge. Big banks, petroleum companies, and utilities experience incredible cash flows. Every month you pay them, every month it flows. They should be willing or be forced to cooperate helpfully in this challenge. And yet, even here in Arkansas and Louisiana and Arizona and other places, the utilities are resisting with all their funds and power and attorneys. Divisions in our country and throughout the world. That's number 4. It's inhibited. All the challenges are inhibited by the division, red versus blue, or whatever the divisions are. The haves, the have-nots, whatever. Climate change should not be political. Citizens need to vote. Vote for the federal elections, the primaries, the local elections, the school board, for candidates who support climate change legislation. This is about coming together, just not as gathering people, but with love and respect for each other and for the earth. Caring for creation, a biblical movement, is as defined in the Bible or in other Qurans or whatever. Every major religion says we need to care for creation, maintain confidence and hope. There are proven and economical solutions, and there will be more to come with research. But again, time is of essence. What are some of the solutions? Summarized broadly: efficiency, solar power, wind generation, appropriate voting. Tried and proven economical, affordable solutions are here and now. Yes, research continues, but society can't wait, just can't wait. We have to postpone it. For the big breakthroughs, as I said before, research and innovation will continue and good results will be realized. The people of society need to commit to being part of that solution and take appropriate actions. I'm repeating some here, but I think it's so important. The book Drawdown, written by Paul Hawken, who's also written a number of other books and meaningful. He gathered a lot of prominent people, scientists and capitalists, to help write this book. He says that the solutions are there, but there are specifics that still have to be defined. Whoops. So some of the things broadly said, I don't want to take a lot of our time on this. Energy, farming and farm techniques, which can be much better, much more kind to the soil, people, and women's education, part of the climate, but the population problem is related to population and climate, transportation, buses and so forth, the ocean, farming, industrial, and yes, farming underneath solar systems that collect the sunshine, at least part of it, because the plants need some of it. Drawdown emphasizes that we need to work up and down the level from the federal government, which already has funded through the Inflation Reduction Act, but I must say that $40.4 trillion is just a drop in the bucket. We need maybe 4 or 7 trillion. The petroleum industry is totaled with some estimated amount of 4.7 trillion, and the federal government is still giving them subsidies. State governments, local governments, school boards, business, industry, universities, churches, nonprofits, and yes, you and me. That was specifically said in the drawdown information. Our approach and my approach through the years, which we've gathered together in a meaningful way, and I'll elaborate on this as we go forward. For most of 57 years, my wife and I and family have practiced a commitment to holistically green living. It is a consideration. It is a consideration in essentially everything we do. The biggest components of our own carbon footprint are our house and our cars. And then there are other things we use energy, but that's a lion's share. Living Green provides insights into happy, practical, and economical ways to reduce your carbon footprint, increase your comfort, improve your health, and without meat and dairy, it makes for a difference. And it is not a pain and sacrifice difference. It's a wholesome, caring difference. Provided education and happy people, motivated, educated, and happy people share. That's the important word, share. People share this paradigm shift with other families and friends and fellow workers and people in big companies, that somehow the word gets around. Outspoken people like to share that, and such sharing will make a difference. It will. We've already seen a difference already. Holistically green living is contagious, and it is part of the solution. This interaction is so powerful and a way to facilitate needed changes. Holistically green living as it relates to solar, it is a good investment. Minimum risk, as in stocks or bonds or whatever, without pain and sacrifice. They just put panels on the roof or on the ground and you enjoy the clean energy. Economical for most families. We have no down payment. In effect, you swap your utility bill, or at least a part of your utility bill, for a solar loan. Now, you still can pay cash, and then it's even a better investment. But in effect, you get a solar system installed for no significant amount of monthly increase in what you pay. Everybody pays a utility bill that has a house or even an apartment. Your utility bill is like a monthly mortgage. I like this, the monthly mortgage, but you never pay it off. It's like a flexible mortgage, a variable rate mortgage, that in effect, they increase your rate with inflation and their expenses. Solar users, in effect, own part of the utility company. A lot of people would just as soon beat the utility company, so to speak. Lock in on future inflation, utility bills, sales, taxes. benefits from tax credits. There are a lot of tax credits from the governments and from utilities. Net zero or net zero plus homes, clean energy for houses, cars, tools, golf carts, etc. Receive monthly tax-free dividends in effect as a lower utility bill. That is monthly savings. They're tax-free. You never pay taxes on them. You invest your money, but you don't pay taxes ever. Will provide clean, sustainable power for this and future generations. Holistically green living again. 50 ideas to save energy and dollars. I'm not going to go through all those, but when the recording comes out, turn off lights, change your light bulbs, tell your children to turn off lights, tell your spouse or your boss to turn off lights, ride a bike, shut down your central system and install mini splits, all kinds of things. And it's a brainstorm. Oops, I lost my place there. Here we go. About our home, I'm going to show you a little more about our home. It's net zero plus. We only use clean energy. We drive plug-in cars. Our utility bills are really low. I'll show you those in a minute. We live in an energy plan subdivision. Unlike most production subdivisions, all of our utility bills are very low. We grow a garden for fun, exercise, and fresh food. Is not pain and sacrifice. I love that expression, so I say it frequently. In fact, we now enjoy living more than ever. We have both lost weight, we have more energy, and are generally healthier. Let's talk about our cars. Barry drives a plug-in Prius. I drive a Tesla 3. We drive past filling stations. We fill our power source with sunshine, and we, in effect, on our house, own our own sunshine station, if you want to call it that. Our home is in the background. Powering EVs with solar and wind energy is environmentally correct, but powering them with coal-generated electricity is contrary to what this is all about. Here are our utility bills, month after month for 12 months. They go back further than this, but this is all I'm showing. Average of $28.20, a few months where we paid bills, but mostly it was because we charged our car in addition to powering our house, even through the winter and through the summer. Holistically green living, it's a way of life. And energy planned and environmentally sustainable subdivision. By covenants, the covenants define how we're to build the house and orient the house, and they're all oriented to the sun. Houses have at least 4 sides, therefore they face 4 directions, and they don't line up necessarily to the curb. The video, this video that follows was one of 4 entries in the 2022 National Solar Tour, and that's coming up again in the first week of October 23, as sponsored by the American Solar Energy Society. The National Solar Tour will happen again this year. Mary and I and our son, David, live in South Sun Estates. We enjoy a wholesome relationship with our neighbors. And for understandable reasons, most developers and builders do not want to live in their own subdivisions. Production builders should try it. It is a better and more economical way to build houses or whatever. My book is a recipe for them to just get started. This is a video, a walking tour of South Sun Estates. You'll enjoy watching it. Holistically Green Living, about my book. I'll show you the book written in a few minutes. The principles and details of the book are applicable to holistically green living for essentially everyone in an infinite number of ways. In other words, the information in the book is not just about elaborate and expensive new homes. Many of these homes have won National Energy Value Awards for affordable homes category. Efficiency features and green homes are not usually more expensive, all things considered. When you consider principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and energy, which for most people pay monthly. In contrast to many other books related to energy and sustainability, the 18 principles and related details of the book are all tried and proven. Over the years, we've tried and proven. We've thrown away the things that are not practical or economical, as our family over the generations of green living. The many photos in the book are of real homes with satisfied real customers, and they've given us permission to use their home, their photos and their quotations, which we were required to do legally before we could publish it. 15 of these homes are within South Sun Estates. This is a book, Energy Efficiency Principles I have learned over 60 years. I'm dating myself again, and now I want to openly share with others. This is a recipe for all those builders who are not building very efficiently, frankly. Personal commitment and behavior, chapter 1 in my book. And it starts with the first chapter because what follows is more received by the reader if they realize that this is serious and they need to make a commitment. But commitment, absolutely nothing happens, nothing good happens until people make a commitment. Yes, we all need hope, and hope is such a big word, such a big word. There are tried, proven, and economical solutions to climate change. Yes, there will be solutions. We will make a difference, but we do have a limited amount of time to do it. You can order the book. Well, let me start first. This is my contact information, my phone number. You're welcome to call me, my email. We have different websites for Stitt Holistically Green Living, for the Stitt Group, for Stitt Solar, and also social media for the several. You can buy a hard copy for $39.75 or a USB drive with a thumb drive in it for $18.75. All of the revenue, and this is my decision, all of the book revenue will be donated to the American Solar Energy Society. We need to perpetuate their work. We need solutions, and they're part of the solution, and we appreciate that. Any questions or anything, feel welcome to contact me by email, by text. I'll try to get back to you. I'll try to get you good answers. And so that's what I have to say.
Thank you so much, Orlo, for your inspiring presentation. And thank you all for attending this month's webinar. I hope to see you all next month for June ASES webinar, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day.